At the start of any given day, there is mystery available. There is a game waiting for an open heart to say yes. Here I am, I'll play. And if we're smart, we'll listen to the way, and all the misery that held us down, we'll let it fade. Let it be outshined by a simple spark of a life that's waiting to be made. It's waiting to be made. What will you make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? What will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide what you will make? At the start of any given day, there is history and poetry. There is a play, but you're not in the audience. You are the star. So get out there and say what you will make. What will you make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? What will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide just what you will make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? And what will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide what you will make?
Good morning. And a heartfelt welcome to Emerson to each of you. My name is Jeffrey Jacoby, and I'm a member of the worship team, the story troupe, and the Emerson Choir. A special welcome of those of you who may be visiting us for the first time, and a big virtual greeting to those of you online. We hope you are nourished in heart and mind by our worship today. As Unitarian Universalist congregation, we welcome a wide variety of theological and spiritual beliefs. We honor the inherent worth and dignity of each and every person. So no matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe, or who you love, you are welcome here. All are warmly invited to join us for the social time following the service. Online participants may stay on the Zoom call for a chance to connect with others online. Those here in person are invited to join us outside on our back terrace for some light refreshments and coffee conversation. Following that, head on over to the picnic tables where Dave Schimmel and Greg Castle will be giving a class using Realm for all your congregational needs. The kids and youth classes are on vacation this weekend for Memorial Day. For a list of all of our upcoming activities, please visit our website, emersonuu.org. Or if you are on Realm, our online platform, all of our activities are listed there as well.
By Rupi Kaur. When the world comes crashing at your feet, it's okay to let others help pick up the pieces. If we're present to take part in your happiness when your circumstances are great, we are more than capable of sharing your pain.
And now, in the spirit of beloved community, please take a moment to greet and welcome those sitting next to you this morning with our congregational affirmation. We need not think alike to love alike.
Sitting in the back. Hello, good.
Good morning, you wayward, wonderful souls who made your way out here on a Memorial Day weekend. Welcome, welcome. It's good to see you all. My name's Reverend Deborah Bennett, and a welcome to all of you listening online as well, or listening to us later on YouTube. So I just want to admit that this was a service that was difficult to prepare. I'm not a mental health professional, and this service is not intended to offer any form of advice or diagnosis or treatment, except I'll say perhaps for us collectively as a society, reminding us that mental health and mental illness are always with us and something that we cannot ignore. And that fact alone is reason enough to gather together and to name it and to be present for each other in this conversation. So thank you for joining us today. I will be touching on some subjects that may be challenging for some, so I'll invite you to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. No offense taken if you decide to not stay for the sermon, or if in the middle of the sermon you decide that's just not for you. That's fine. I'm going to begin this morning, though, with something on a related but not totally same topic. It's a piece called Forged in the Fire of Coming Together. It's by colleague Gretchen Haley. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes, and forwarded emails, as if a new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way. As if we could prepare. As if life had ever made any promises of making sense. As if we were not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out. And also the burden of believing we either have no control at all or have total control. Here in our song and in our silence, our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is love. Forged in the fire of coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible and that we are creating it here and now. So come, let us worship together. Please rise as you are able in body or spirit. Our opening hymn this morning is in the Teal hymnal. It is number 1008. And how wonderful to be able to pick up a book that someone else has also picked up. Feel safe about that. And thank you to our hymn singers this morning, Dave Schimmel and Kathy Middleman Creasy. Take it away.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazed we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our stories from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, and our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Good morning, all. It's wonderful to kind of see as much as I can of your faces this morning. It's great to have you here. I'm Susan Ullman, and I serve on our Emerson Pastoral Care team. We're available with listening hearts and caring hearts, too, to support you during challenging times. You can contact us through our email address, pastoralcare@emersonuu.org. At this time in our service, we pause to share personal joys, sorrows, and concerns of our Emerson community. Each Sunday, we light our vigil bowl. Its light represents the light of hope for peaceful resolution of conflicts all over our planet, and it honors the dedicated people who serve us, especially those on the front line of the COVID-19 virus battle. We also light a special candle of acknowledgement for the Cherokee and Muskogee nations of people. They lived on the land before us. May this candle remind us of our interconnections, and may our actions help heal all nations of people. If you are online with us this morning, please feel free to share your joys, sorrows, and concerns by typing them in the chat. If you are with us in person, we invite you to write them down at our table back there before the service and inside the main entry doors, and put them in the place there. Reverend Deborah will light candles as I share joys with you today. And I have 4 joys, which is wonderful. From Audrey and Chris Tice, it was our 20th wedding anniversary this past week. We can't wait to celebrate in our hometown in Virginia, along with the 17-year cicadas that have come out. Congratulations to them, that's wonderful news. And a joy from Mark Cobb. I retired this week after 30 years of teaching kindergarten and first grade. He has given the world many, many gifts. Isn't that great? Congratulations, Mark. We love you. And from the Rivera Garwick family, our beautiful firstborn Olivia is 10 years old today. We are so grateful for your presence in our lives. We love you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. That's wonderful. And from Cindy and Ashley Collins, visiting, happy to be here. They were Emerson members until about 7 years ago and moved to another state, but they're back here visiting. That's marvelous. Welcome. Good to have you here. I don't have any sorrows or concerns that have been written today or submitted today, but I have a mixed joy and sorrow today. This is Memorial Day weekend, and it's my joy to celebrate and honor the people who've given their lives in service and for our freedom in America. And it's a sorrow that they've died in that service. So I present that mixed joy and sorrow today for everyone. We also know there may be joys, sorrows, and concerns that are too tender to share. At this time, feel free to speak out loud here or type into the chat at home the name of someone you are holding in your heart today. Sandra. And my neighbors. Now let us send our heartfelt intentions to all people everywhere by offering the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. Please repeat each line after me. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. All beings be filled with loving kindness. May they be free from harm and suffering. May they be free from harm and suffering. May they be well in body, heart, and mind. Well in body, heart, and mind. May they be at peace. Blessed be.
Wonder what's in this basket. Do you guys wonder? Would you like to come up? I have a story for all ages. Looks like we have a storybook and a polar bear. Hello, Joe. Hello, Maria. Hello, Nick. Looks like a normal enough polar bear, doesn't it? Well, the story I have today is called Bipolar Bear. And it's taken from a remarkable children's book that's only been in print for a couple years, and it's written by Victoria Reno. Let's begin. This is Polar Bear. His family and Polar Bear live on a beautiful planet. It's not too big, it's not too little, it's just right. Sometimes Polar Bear is on the North Pole, dancing without a care. And sometimes he naps on the South Pole. That's why you see he's a bipolar bear. Polar Bear walks around the planet, not sure about what he'll find from day to day. One thing he knows for certain is that his family is always with them. When Polar Bear is on the North Pole, he feels on top of the world. Should we put him up here? Top of the world. He's happy. He dances. He spins around. The sunbeams come down on him. Everything seems intense and bright and beautiful. By the way, can we turn the lights on in the dais? There they are. sun shines from every corner of the world for Polar Bear. But the sun makes him dizzy, or maybe it's the dancing, and the light is bright and intense. When it shines down, it makes him lose his sight. So sometimes his family helps him by putting on sunglasses. Pretty nice green sunglasses, if I do say so myself. And they hope that he'll find his path back home down below. Sometimes he finds his own sunglasses, feeling around on his own, and sometimes he does this very quickly, and sometimes he does it very slowly. That's right. Polar Bear visits the South Pole too, on the other side of the map. The South Pole is cool and quiet. He gets tired, and he just likes to nap. It's hard to see all the beauty on the South Pole with it being so dark, says the tired, uninspired bear. Is anyone there? I can't see a thing. Sometimes it's dark as night there. Sometimes Polar Bear's family is there to give him a nice, bright flashlight, so he can see everything that's going on. At times he finds the flashlight by himself, and everything's a little bit blurry. Sometimes it just takes, once again, a very long time. And sometimes he's in a hurry. Either way, North Pole or South Pole, no matter where Polar Bear roams, he always goes to where his heart belongs. Polar Bear always finds his way home. And it's more than just Polar Bear. I think I'll have Reverend Deborah hold Polar Bear. It's not just Polar Bear that's like this. Well, gosh, we've got, I have a bag of tricks here. You know I do. We've got Tiger. Tiger has his sunglasses on, doesn't he? She. Would you like to hold Tiger? There you go, Olivia, thanks. We've got Giraffe. Giraffe has his sunglasses on. Maybe his family helped him find the sunglasses. There you go. We've got Firefly. Hello, Firefly. Firefly is on the South Pole. So she had to find her flashlight. And of course, there's Whale. Whale is on the North Pole. Whale popped her glasses, didn't she? So Whale is on the North Pole, and maybe her family, or maybe she found her sunglasses by herself. So many, many, many living beings have a mental illness called bipolar disorder. The sunglasses and the flashlight from our story are meant to represent the many treatments for bipolar disorders and all the different forms they come in. They are tools that help, sunglasses and flashlights. Bipolar disorder is a mental illness that brings extremely high and extremely low moods and changes in behavior that a person can't control without help. Each person or animal is unique, as is their methods for living with bipolar disorder. These tools can give a voice to loved ones who might otherwise feel helpless. If someone hands the flashlight or the sunglasses tools to you, it's okay to let them know that this is a time when you feel you need to find them on your own. An important part of living with mental illness is having friends and family for support. So I hope that this little story has brought an awareness of mental health as a thing that people, the thing that people have, and hearing that about bipolar bear is part of the breaking the pattern we have of not talking about mental health to each other. So, friends in the front, tell me, what do you think? Do you think it's good that Polar Bear's story was told this morning? You like that? It's good to know those things, isn't it? And it's okay to talk about mental health, just like we would other important illnesses. So let's space ourselves. You're spaced already. You're a family unit. I'll stand right there. And we will sing our song of dedication. Please join me. The words are in your order of service.
What is the doctrine of this church? The best of truth is the sacrament, and service is His prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve Him in kind and fellowship, now to be covenant with each other, now to be promise to each other.
Want to go play? Come. Of course. Got it?
Thank you, Miss Beth. I'm going to invite us into a time of centering. And this morning, as we kind of find that place that feels best for us, whether that's eyes open or eyes closed, sitting up straight or leaning back, feet on the ground or legs crossed, if you can manage that. Just allow yourself this moment to find a place to take a deep breath. Let this be a pause in your week. I'm going to invite you this morning in this pause, this place of pause and quiet, to continue in a reflective mode as we listen to a beautiful anthem written and offered by Bruce King. So feel free to stay in a meditative space or come out when you are ready.
I don't know what it's about. Do my arms and legs just scream and shout and give me away? Or is it how I gaze at them? I see right through this haze, and then they're looking through me. I can feel it and they know it. I can't hide it or deny. Gotta live inside a lie, keep it deep down inside, do my best to survive. Disappear. Mirror, mirror on the wall, can I make a collect call? I'm looking for change. 'Cause what is looking back at me has to be a mistake. Please, won't you give a kid a break? Can't you see this? Won't you heal it? Do I hide it or reveal? Do I live inside of lies? Keep it deep down inside, do my best to survive. I gotta find a road around this mountain of life. I gotta find a way to make it to a better day. Round peg, square hole, who can say? A dirty curve is on its way. You better watch out if you want to live. Motorcycle, jump the rail. I'll escape, I will not fail. You're looking at me for the very last time. Moved or kicked out, took the rough route. Got to feel free to feel the real me. I refuse to live inside, keep it deep down inside. I'll do more than survive. I'm gonna find a road around this mountain of life. I'm gonna find a way to save it for a better day. I have to realize the prize the whole world awaits. I'm walking on my wake. I'll be dancing through those pearly gates. Here I am, and here I stand. The view from here is clear, I dare say grand, on this mountain of life.
Thank you for sharing yourself with us, Bruce. Collectively, mental illness scares us. We may not like to admit that, but the evidence that surrounds us, I think, is indisputable. The collective stories we have told about mental illness in this country and in places around the world is not pretty. While some societies have viewed what we call mental illness as a spiritual experience, for most cultures in history, behavior outside the norm was considered caused by some sort of demonic possession. And though the scientific era brought new therapies to the table, the stigma and fear of mental illness remains. And perhaps it even grew. It wasn't that long ago when many women found themselves committed to institutions based solely on the determination of their husbands, who deemed them mentally unstable on a monthly basis. You see, any sign of an emotional state that would interfere with her wifely duties were grounds for institutionalization. The eugenics movement of the early 1900s subjected mentally ill people to forced sterilizations. And in 1939, Hitler, a proponent of eugenics, signed a decree that resulted in hundreds of thousands of mentally ill and handicapped people being executed as part of his illusionary plan to create what he thought would be a superior race. Unfortunately, the thought process that created these deplorable treatments for mental illness in the Middle Ages and the eugenics movement of the 20th century did not end after World War II. In recent years, the story of Rosemary Kennedy's life has come out and illustrates the devastating results of a collective fear of mental illness. Rosemary was the oldest of the 9 Kennedy children, and she suffered brain damage during her birth. You see, her mother Rose, had been forced to keep her legs closed for 2 hours after the urge to push came. For 2 hours, she waited in pain, waiting for the doctor so that he could deliver the baby and collect his fee only by being present at the birth. As Rosemary grew, it became apparent that she was not only intellectually slower, but became more unpredictable. And so desperate was her father to correct these perceived failings that he scheduled his then 23-year-old daughter for a prefrontal lobe lobotomy. The devastating results left her without ever fully being able to speak again and left her dependent on care for the rest of her life. For years, her father would not disclose her condition to the rest of the family, and she was kept in an institution many states away with little contact from loved ones. The Kennedys, after all, were wealthy with political ambitions, and Rosemary's mental disability was considered a point of shame, and they needed to hide it. Fast forward 8 decades, and we come to the story of how an American black woman married the Prince of England, only to be silenced and shamed herself for her struggles with mental health and her thoughts of suicide. In recent interviews with Oprah Winfrey, Harry, the Prince of England, speaks of how he was scoffed at for the idea of him going to therapy himself. Royals don't do therapy, he was told again and again. Rosemary Kennedy and Prince Harry share families for whom the orthodoxy of perfectionism was so deeply rooted that they would rather their beloved children suffer alone than to imply any cracks in the narrative of the perfect story they thought they lived in. The stigma of mental illness is rooted in perfectionism, and it's rooted in fear. But it's not only the wealthy, politically positioned people of the world who fear mental illness. On January 10th of this year, 2021, in Keelan, Texas, a sadly familiar scene unfolded. The family of a 52-year-old man, Patrick Warren Sr., called authorities around 5 p.m. and asked for a mental health professional to be dispatched to the home. Instead, a police officer, who was not prepared to handle a mental health crisis, responded to the call. Patrick Warren Sr. was not aggressive during his interactions with the police. He was not armed. He was in his home, and then he was in his yard, and he was in his right to reject the services of law enforcement when they arrived that day. But Patrick Warren Sr. was not helped, and he was not left alone. This black man, in the midst of a mental health crisis, something that requires professional medical intervention, was shot and killed by a police officer. Racism, too, is grounded in fear. And all too often, racism and the fear of mental illness in the same location ends horrifically. Most of us would like to believe that we are not capable of the kind of violence and ignorance that these stories illustrate, and perhaps we're not. But I do not believe that we are free of the seeds of fear from which these stories have come. How many of us have recognized our own fear of mental illness? The fear of someone in a mental health crisis harming us, and maybe more poignantly, the fear of that crisis evolving within us. During my time serving as a hospital chaplain, I was assigned to what is commonly referred to as the psych unit. It was there that I came to recognize my own fears. The psych unit was on the 5th floor of the hospital, and to get there you needed to go through 2 sets of locked doors. Once inside, I quickly discovered that I was surrounded by gray. I had naively assumed that since the patients in this area were suffering from a mental illness, that their treatment would include being surrounded by beauty and calm. After all, the neonatal unit of the hospital had forests and playful animals painted on their walls. I was naive. Instead, the walls were gray, the air was gray, the entire energy there was gray. Patients wandered freely in the narrow gray hallways. A few staff were moving about, while a good many of the staff secured themselves in an office behind thick glass walls with only a small cutout through which you could speak to them. I walked cautiously down the hallway on that first visit. Another stood facing the corner, making sounds, and that sounded more like somewhere between a laughter and a cry. And others were just sitting at tables in the small dining room, mostly alone. And then as I walked further down the hallway, I saw her. The woman whose large round eyes seemed to look straight at me and through me at the same time. Her white hair stood up, and her expression was both hauntingly empty and yet seemed to contain every expression known to humanity. I will tell you honestly that I felt scared looking at her. On that first visit, I did not talk to anyone except to quickly drop off the Bible to someone who had requested it, and then I left, deeply shaken. I had accepted the assignment to the psych unit as I knew I had a strong conviction in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and that I would be open and loving to those I met. But assumptions of how we will respond in any situation are no match for the visceral reality we experience when actually in that situation. My first visit to that unit showed me I needed to recognize my own fears and stigmatization of mental illness before I could be of any real support to anyone. But one need not go to a psych unit in a hospital to be in the presence of one's fears and stigmatization of mental illness. The story of mental illness is everywhere, and the gray of that stigma goes with it. I wonder, how do you react, and what do you think when you walk past a person on the street who is talking to someone you can't see? When someone you know drops out of their normal routines as a result of anxiety or depression, what is the story you tell yourself about their life and their needs in that moment? Collectively, we too have a fear that causes us to keep our distance, maybe not with bullets or thick glass walls, but with our hearts. When we look closer at the story of mental illness and health, we all find those there who we know: a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, a sibling, a close friend. And perhaps too, hidden in the pages of that story is you. It is a misunderstanding to think that one is either mentally healthy or one is not. Mental health, just like physical health, lives on a spectrum. During their study of mental health around the World Health Organization found that 1 in every 4 people in the world would be directly affected by mental illness at some point in their life. 1 of 4. Tens of millions of Americans are currently living with a mental illness, experiencing a mental health crisis, or living with mental and emotional challenges. Many do so alone, unable to share what they are going through with family and friends. Millions of people each year try to navigate the tricky waters of mental health by themselves out of fear of disclosure or because of a lack of access to the therapies that may help them, or both. Zaya Ginsburg, Brian Lokesh Van Tres, Naresh King, John O'Neill, Lakshmi Kant. These are the names of people I know, people I lived with in my ashram community who all died by suicide. Each death so incredibly shocking. After Zaya's death, I struggled particularly hard to understand. She had a son only a year younger than my daughter, and she was a good mother. How could she leave him? How bad must depression feel to cause the brain to conclude that death was the only way out? A few weeks after her death, as I vacillated between feeling sad and really angry at her, and really angry at what I saw as her choice, she gave me an answer. Although I had never experienced depression, I woke up one day with a feeling I had never experienced before. It was not sad, it wasn't numbness, but some place between those, some depths that I couldn't describe, and I felt trapped deep inside of it. As I drove to work that day on the highway feeling empty, the urge to shift my steering wheel hard left in front of an oncoming truck rose up at a massive force, and it surrounded me. I almost could not do it. And after the truck passed, I realized I was still driving, and I gripped the steering wheel even more tightly. And that is when Zaya came to me, and with the compassionate voice that she always had in life, she said to me, "Imagine feeling that way all day, every day, week after week, month after month, year after year." Hearing her and feeling the power of her words, I broke down in tears as my heart broke open with compassion. It's scary to witness someone not having control of their emotional state. And it is scary to not have control of our own emotional states. Given this fear, it makes sense that we would shrink away from any sign of mental illness in others and any sign of mental crisis or challenge or illness in ourselves. But denying our experiences and our fear only causes greater stigma to form. 15 years ago, a U.S. Surgeon General's report on mental health identified stigma as a public health concern. According to NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, this stigma leads to people living with mental health conditions being alienated and seen as others, being perceived as dangerous, seen as irresponsible or unable to make their own decisions, less likely to be hired, less likely to get safe housing, more likely to be criminalized and offered health care, and afraid of rejection to the point that they don't always pursue opportunities. Many people living with mental health conditions internalize the stigma that exists in our culture, impacting hopes for recovery. Mental health experts tell us that an important part of healing mental illness, especially that caused by trauma, is by sharing our stories. Compassion and compassionate listening may not cure the illness, but it is shown to be some really good medicine. In the newly released documentary, The Me You Can't See, it is on Apple TV, and I'd highly recommend it. There's a beautiful story of some women using this form of good medicine. They live in a community in Zimbabwe where life is hard and where they do not have all the basic needs met for life, and where the stress of these facts have created a great increase in mental health issues. Several years ago, because the village did not have access to the number of mental health professionals they needed, the nearby health clinic began to work with local women, older women, who took on the role of granny, of a compassionate, listening ear and open heart. They did not have a clinic for these women to meet others, so instead they decided to create a bench that they call the friendship bench. And for many hours each day, the women take turns sitting on the bench, ready to welcome those in need of a compassionate ear. They welcome each person that comes with the words, "We welcome you with joy to the friendship bench. Are you ready to speak about what brought you here?" Now, the grannies aren't doctors and they're not highly trained in mental illness, but they provide the first aid, a safe place without stigma and without shame. One of the grannies shares that her work at the friendship bench has shown her how anxiety can cause mental illness, and that listening with compassion can help relieve that anxiety. This granny says, "Love is what they need the most, because if a person is shown love, is talked to and really listened to, if they see that there is someone to listen to their story, they can be helped and get better because they're going to be thinking, somebody loves me." Experiencing a mental health challenge is one of the most vulnerable places we can find ourselves. In many ways, someone experiencing mental illness is at their most unpretentious and authentic. All the mechanisms we employ daily to prove our functionality to the world get stripped away, and there we are. The truth we are often afraid to admit is that the veil between the world we think we are in control of and the one where we feel utterly out of control is very thin. In my second week at the hospital, I was given the opportunity to begin leading the weekly spirituality sessions in the psych unit. I was told I could do anything I wanted to do in these sessions. So on the appointed day, hospital staff led me to the cement gray room where they would occur, took attendance of those in the room, told me to keep the door shut so others wouldn't wander in during the session, wished me luck, and left. I sat in the circle of chairs and took a deep breath. She was there, the lady whom the week before had truly scared me. Her name, I had since learned, was Shirley. Shirley was quiet, just as before, and her eyes remained large and fixed in my direction. I had decided to lead the group in some body movements. At first, Shirley just sat there looking at me. But then I led the lion pose. And here's how the lion pose looks. It's a real pose. You want to try it? Go ahead and do it. The eyes go up. I encouraged them to let out their inner lions and really go for it, and we repeated it again and again and again. And then I heard this really loud roar. And I lowered my eyes, and it was Shirley, roaring like the largest lion there ever was on the Serengeti Plains. And in between roars, she was laughing. I mean, huge belly laughter. She thought this was the funniest thing ever. And her laughter was contagious, and we all just laughed and kept roaring and roaring, and my heart melted. At the end of class, I thanked Shirley for coming, knowing I was thanking her for her healing presence. And she just kept laughing as she walked out the door, making lying sounds. And I like to think that every once in a while, when Shirley's life gets intense now and she finds herself in a mind cage, that she comes roaring out with her lion's pose and her laughter. We are all on the path between mental health and mental illness. It's a state that fluctuates from day to day and year to year. Isolation, loneliness, grief, unprocessed pain all contribute to the spectrum of health. In the documentary, Lady Gaga shares about her own experience of cutting herself and her mental health struggles. And she concludes, what we each need is at least one person that validates us. One person that believes us, that cares about us, and tells us that our pain matters and it's real. And I think that's a good place to end today, because that is something we can do for each other. So whether you've been coming to Emerson for 39 years or this is your first visit, I'm going to invite you to help us all create a community where the stigma of mental illness is absent and the compassion of human connection is abundant in all the stages of our life and our health together. Together we can make a difference for each other. As we sing our closing hymn, I'm going to invite you into a ritual. There's two opportunities here. I want to allow you to acknowledge, if you would like, two things. One, if there is someone that you know and love that has died because of mental illness, through suicide or other related causes of mental illness, I'm going to invite you to come here and take one of these stones and place it in the bowl and you're free to say their name as well. I'll turn the mic, so if you want to say the name into the microphone, you may, or that's up to you. And then the other opportunity is to come up and take some rose petals, and we're just going to put them around our candles. And this is to symbolize anyone that you know that is currently struggling with mental health challenges, and that can be yourself or someone else. And I won't ask for names there, but you can just place those over there. Yeah, so we'll do that while singing our closing hymn, which is 95 in the gray hymnal. And just feel free to kind of come up. There's not that many of us here today, so it won't be crowded, but you can just come up and then go back down to your seat.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more
Christine Finn.
hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till
Chris
I
Hershey.
find it. There is more hope somewhere.
Frank Burns.
There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere.
Holly Grable.
There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
William Basterson, Michael Wambach,
There is more love somewhere.
Michael Roberts, Justin Cruz,
Keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is
excuse that. Let's take a moment together. I wish this bowl was empty. Let's close our eyes for a moment and allow you to feel whether you heard all the names that were spoken that represent each of these stones or not. Allow yourself to hold in compassion the souls represented by those stones, the families, the friends, the web that extends out from them, that is forever changed. Allowing yourself to connect with them in whatever way feels appropriate for you, sending love and prayers for peace to them and to their family. And then take a moment and look at our altar and see the incredible number of red petals, a reminder that we are not alone and that you are not alone. The times that you suffer, the times that you struggle, I hope that you can remember that altar. Remember there is others here with you and for you. That can be a listening ear and a caring heart, and be that first aid as you get the support you need outside of here as well. Thank you for joining us this morning in this beautiful ritual. Amen.
Thank you to everybody who came up to share. Our mission in Emerson is to seek truths, celebrate differences, act on our Unitarian Universalist principles, inspire the best in each of us, and serve the world. Our mission is made possible through the generous time, talent, and financial contributions of members, friends, and guests. One way we live into our mission is by partnering with other organizations committed to creating justice, peace, and compassion in the world. Each month, we choose an organization and encourage our members and friends to contribute both financially and through action to their work. This month's partner organization is Must Ministries' Summer Lunch Program. Summer often means many of our neighbors are wondering how they will feed their children each lunch day. Must provides a nutritious lunch each summer weekday to thousands of children. At this time, we ask you to consider making a financial contribution to Emerson and to the Must Ministries Summer Lunch Program. Our collection today will be shared equally between both organizations. Any amount is appreciated, and we thank you for putting your values into action. As the basket is passed, please feel free to take one of the cards inside the basket that lists the ways to give if you prefer to give online. Also, please enjoy an organic lollipop as our treat to you. For those of you online, links to giving will be in the chat, and I'm sorry, your lollipop will need to be virtual. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you. Glenn Close has said this: what mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, more unashamed conversation about illness that affects not only individuals, but their families as well. So as we close our service this morning, if you are in need in this moment of some support, some of our pastoral care team and myself will be staying in the sanctuary. Please feel free to stay. And if there's quite a few people, we'll have a reflective time, like a post-service reflections is available too. But we just want to let you know that there'll be some people here if you need to connect in. Otherwise, we will have fellowship time outside. Do you have more to say, Jeffrey? You're just sitting there. We're going to extinguish the chalice. Yes, thank you.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.
Thank you, Leah. Please go now in peace and take peace wherever you go. On our table, the pastoral care table, there's also pastoral care cards with the email address, so feel free to take one of those and have it with you if you ever are in need. Blessings.